Hey friends, it's Rick. I'm back with another video for Paper Rose Studio. Today we are going to make a pop-up block card using some fun Valentine's themed products that you may already have if you got these last year. But we're going to be using some of the Candy Kisses tags and tickets embossed die cuts. I pulled the pattern paper from the Candy Treats pattern paper. I'm also going to be using the I can never remember the name of the stamp set. The Stack Sentiments #2 stamp set. And I'm not using the coordinating dies today, but I am going to use the Sentiment Banner strip metal dies. I'm also using the Extra Border Trio metal dies. I only want the hearts. So we're going to use that. We're going to use that for our embellishment. And then we're going to use the Sentiment Strip metal dies to cut out our sentiment strip. All right, so for our fun fold, you're going to need your card base first, and you're going to want a piece of cardstock, heavyweight cardstock, that's 4 1/4 by 9 1/2. And we are going to score that at 2 inches and 4 inches. Basically, we're going to have a Z fold card for our card base. So we'll fold and burnish all that. And then we're going to fold this front flap back on itself. That's our base of our card. Now, for our other little parts and pieces, you're going to want a piece of 3 1/4 by 5 inch cardstock. And you're going to score that at 1 1/2, 3, and 4 1/2. You're also going to want a piece of 2 1/4 by 4. And we're going to score at 1, 2 1/2, and 3 1/2. And then our last little piece is a 1 1/2 by 3, and you're going to score it a 1/2 inch, 2 inch, and 2 1/2. So we'll go ahead and fold these. This is going to get folded back on itself. These are our little steps for our card. So that's get folded back. That's going to get folded back. There's that. Basically, that we're going to make a little step like that. We're going to do the same thing with our other pieces here. We'll go ahead and fold those back. And we will fold this last one back and burnish it with your bone folder. Make sure you burnish. Anytime you have a score line, burnish it with your bone folder. It's going to make your lines nice, your folds nice and crisp, and it will make it look a lot neater and stand up a lot better. So we'll go ahead and fold that one back on itself. And then our last little flap right there. Just like that. So those are the parts and pieces for our card base. What you're going to need for that. And it looks complicated, but really it's not. I'll bring the card in one more time to show you. It's just super easy. All right, we're going to move these out of the way for a second. And we'll talk about our matte layers and our pattern paper. Because you are going to want some pretty pattern paper. And for example, the pattern, if you have the patterns, and several companies have these. I know Paper Rose Studios always has one in our paper pads. The one that has the pattern that goes all the way across. This is a great card design for that type of pattern paper. Here, there's the full pattern. Those like that, they are great for this type of card design because you can have the whole design span all the way across the card, which is what we're doing today. All right, let's go ahead and lay this out. All right, so for our base of our card, we're going to need a piece of 4 by 5 1/4, and I've matted that with a piece of the pink cherry blossom cardstock that's 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And I'm just going to layer those together. So we'll take and add our liquid glue. And I can layer that piece on. Our little matte layer. Just gives me a subtle little border right there. All right, for our other parts and pieces, you're going to need a piece of 1 7/8 by 4 1/8 of the cherry blossom cardstock. Your pattern paper, this is the first cut you're going to make is 1 3/4 by 4. So I can layer that onto our little matte layer. Everything's an 1/8 of an inch. The matte layers are all 1/8 of an inches, even though it's out of order. Our next matte layer is 1 3/8 by 3 1/8. And our pattern paper is 1 1/4 by 3. And I will pop all these measurements up on the screen as we're talking about them. So you could pause the video, catch a screenshot of all the measurements. So there's our next little pattern. Our next matte layer is 1 3/8 by 2 3/8, and our pattern paper is 1 1/4 by 2 1/4. So I'll add that. And you can see how my pattern is still keeping that same visual interest going on. Our next matte layer is 1 3/8 by 1 3/8 with a 1 1/4 by 1 1/4 inch square for our finishing touch. So you can see that pattern continues down through there. And I probably should have cut that down a little bit more where it's more of that showing. And that way that would have lined up. But it's okay. All right, we're going to take our 1 1/2 by 3 inch piece and we're going to lay this part on first. I think it's a little easier to go ahead and add all of your matte layers onto your base pieces before assembling the fun fold. This is the 2 1/4 by 4 piece. We're going to add our matte layer to that. And apparently Rick might not have cut that right. Hold on just a second. All right, so Rick got overzealous and skipped one. It's right there. I got them all out of whack. I was like, this is not right. Something's not lining up right. So I cut this piece wrong. So I'm going to have to trim that off and adjust this one slightly. All right, so the problem lied. Rick cut this base piece wrong. So we're going to have to fix that real fast. It should be 2 1/2 by 4, and I cut it at 2 1/4 by 4 for some reason. So I need to score that at 1 inch, 3 inches, 2 1/2 inches, and 3 1/2 inches. Sorry about that. So we will adjust that. All the measurements that are on the screen are correct. So if you're following along in the tutorial, you should be fine. All right, now we can add this layer onto our panel there. That's correct. Since Rick can't measure, obviously. All right, so this one was right. I didn't have to rip it apart. So we'll just go ahead and add that on. Now that's all that. This one goes onto the front of our little Z or Z fold card base. So I can go ahead and add that on. Making sure I have that equal margin right there. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open that up and I'm going to add the card inside piece, the decorative paper. So we're going to add that. And let's hope Rick did not cut anything else wrong, which is possible. All right, so that's just going to go in there like that. Now, this is how I found it easiest to build this up. I took my first layer, my first bridge, and I lined it up centered in the cardstock panel. And then I could just take and add liquid glue to that. And then I could just flip that over and let that press it and let the glue grab. And then that puts it right in the right spot. Then I could take and open that up, fold this one over, add a little liquid glue there. And then I could just fold this part, holding that still, over. And that would hit where it should stay. But you do want to give your glue time to dry. You could use tearing tape or some kind of red line tape for this. That way it should be right in the right area if you give that glue a little bit of time to dry. So there's our first little tier. We're going to do the same thing with the next one. So I'm going to add liquid glue onto this. And I'm going to line that up in the center of my panel there, keeping everything centered. And then I can push that down and let that grab. Real easy. Pull that up. We'll add, I'm going to add a little tape runner as well, so that it has a little place to hold on to. I'll fold that over. And I can get my little fingers out of it. And then we can fold our card back over. There's that. Then I'm going to go ahead and add our little adhesive there and a little over here. That way, it lets me move on a little bit faster with y'all. So y'all don't have to just sit and watch me hold the paper down. We're going to do that same thing. We're going to line that up centered in this one. And we'll fold that one completely over. And let that grab. There's our fun fold card base. Now we're going to do the fun part and decorate everything. So I'm going to do my stamping first for our sentiment. I've got just a scrap piece of basic white cardstock. I'm going to cut our banner out first. So I'm going to line this up where I want it to go. And I will take a little tape to hold that in place. And I can run that through my die cutting machine. We will use the die cutting machine in just a second again. But that's the start of my little banner for our card. Now, before I use the next one, I'm going to take just a piece of our plain white cardstock, basic white. I'm going to move my die cut machine out of the way for just a few minutes. I'm going to pull in my stamp positioning tool. So we're going to take and stamp our Happy Valentine's Day. So we're going to start off by stamping the tiers first. So we're going to take the one that had the Happy Valentine's Day on it. And then I'm going to go ahead and stamp that. And let's see, we're going to pull in our Paper Rose ink cubes. And I'm going to go with, I think this is Poppy, I believe is the name of the color. So we're going to ink up these. And then I can stamp that down. There's those ready to go. All right, I've popped my banner into my stamp positioning tool. I'm going to line up my Happy, and I want it to be more towards the top of our banner. And then I'm going to stamp our Happy on there. I was just debating if I wanted to go ahead and do it in black or if I wanted to do it in red or pink. We're just going to stick with the black. So I've got that. I'm going to stamp that down. And go ahead and stamp that one more time. Since I drug my ink pad across there. There is a coordinating die for the Happy, and if you get the die set that matches that, I chose to just stamp it on the banner today. So now we're going to cut out our little strips here. So I'm going to pull the die cutting machine back in. I'm going to take that, I'll line that up. This is where the banner die comes in, the sentiment banner strips. There's a couple of these. One is just straight and one is the banners here. You're going to slide that up till you get it where the length of the banners you want to use on your pieces. Line it up. Then you can take and tape that into place. Since they are all nice and stacked, we can run that through. And then I have these other extra little banners that I can save for another project. So I have my little sentiment banners there. So we could do happy birthday wishes. You could do just a note. We're going to go ahead and make another Valentine's Day card since that's what we're making today. But the rest of these I just take and gather them up. And I stick them in the back of my packaging behind the die set, the coordinating die set. And I just drop them in there, and then that way I have them all ready to go for the next project. All right, before we add these to our card front, we're going to go ahead and pick out our die cuts. So I'm going to go with another postage as well as a little heart. So I can pop these out. So there's that. I'm going to go with this little striped heart right here. I have this little pink heart with the flowers that would give another nod to our background paper. So I'm going to take that one as well for this version of the card. And we will go ahead and pull our card base back in. Everything's nice and dry now. So we're going to add our sentiment banner here. So I'm going to attach this first. So I'm going to actually trim that down just a tad. So I don't have to have it that large. We'll add liquid glue behind there. And I want this way I can center our sentiment right there. My little banner, I'm going to take a foam strip and add behind that. So I can take that and I can tuck that under the happy part of the sentiment. And then I'm going to pop up our other pieces here. So I've got a few pieces of some thicker foam squares. I'm going to arrange my little postage on here. And I'm doing that so that I know where I can put the adhesive. Like I can't put one hanging off this way because I do want that at the angle, but I can put one over there on that side. And I could put one right here. That way everything would be nice and supported. I can peel these backings off. And I will add that on. And then I'm going to take some thinner foam tape, thinner foam squares. I'm going to add a couple behind our small heart. And I'm going to put that right. I take it right in there. And our bigger heart, I will add a couple onto it as well. And then I can tuck that in on the card front. And then for our little embellishment, I took and cut, I used the little heart die from the Easter border die set and cut out some Christmas tree red cardstock. And I'm going to add some little hearts on our project. I'm going to start with 3. And now you could cut this out with like shimmer cardstock if you wanted to. I just had the red out already, so I just went ahead and used it. So I'm going to pop these in. And I like to change the direction they're going in. Just a little. So there's 3. I think 3. Well, we'll go ahead and add the other 2. We'll add 1 there. And maybe one of those up here with these groupings of hearts to balance all that out. So we'll take and peel these up. I can add those hearts on. Now, to dress it up just a little bit more, I like to add a little highlight to my little heart since I didn't use the glitter paper. I just add a little bit of highlights to those. Now, you could also come in and add some shimmer to that as well. And I'm leaving it alone and saying it's good with just the little highlights on the die cut hearts. And we're going to take a look at our cards that we made together. So here is a look at our pop-up block card. Here's a look at the top. And you have plenty of room that you can write a message on the back. But there's that version. Here's the original one that I made beforehand. And I did add the little shimmer to that. So if you need any of the products you've seen listed below, I have them all linked and listed in the video description. I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys. Stay crafty. Love you.